Yeah, I watched the movie, read the book, have a summary.
Good.
I think I'm actually got everything ready for this time, so we don't have to pretend that I know what I'm doing.
Hope we're not pretending.
What are you talking about? I'm always pretending I know what I'm doing. Welcome to My Hill to Die On, episode 13.
Everyone has things they are passionate about,
Things we want our friends to try and experience.
so we've convinced each other to try different things.
And we talk about these experiences to see if we can get just one more person.
To join us on our hill to die on. So, are you healthy, Ryan?
I'm super healthy. No diseases, no infections,
No contagions?
no contagions.
Good.
The reason we ask, or start that way, is because, well, coronavirus is a thing that people are really freaking out about.
Oh, yeah.
As we might have mentioned a couple of times, we live in Japan. And for those of you who didn't get to see this, the Prime Minister of Japan recently announced that he was requesting all schools to basically take off until late March.
Yep, so all schools are closed across the country.
Well, the Prime Minister has requested that all schools be closed across the country. Whether or not they actually do so is up to local jurisdiction.
Yeah, well, and I have heard that some schools haven't, but it does seem like most schools have.
Most schools have, especially international schools I've seen. I will say that I have a friend who lives out in Chiba who works at a local high school. So far, the thing that they've decided to do is take one day off.
One day, that's it, really?
One day. Well, keep in mind, this is the peak of test taking and entry exam season.
Yeah, I have heard that this is really disrupting things for those that are actually abiding by his wishes.
Mm-hmm. For those of you who don't know, this time of the year is right before the new semester, new year for Japanese schools. And pretty much every school, if you're transferring from middle school to high school or high school to college, this is the time where all the students are stressed out because they have to take a test, and that test decides whether or not they get to go into the school they want to. They base it a little bit off of other things like an interview and things like this, but the major emphasis is on how you do on this entrance test.
I have a website that I check out every once in a while. I have no idea how accurate it is. In fact, sometimes I do question its accuracy, but I go to corona.help. It's got some nice graphs. Japan used to be the third most infected country. We've now dropped down to sixth, so we're doing pretty good. Only because other countries are getting more cases faster.
You'd think that this corona.help URL would have been taken a long time ago, though.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, we're on the low.
Yeah. It crossed 200 a little bit ago. Yeah, we haven't been getting too many more cases recently. So, I mean, it's been fairly contained in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
People are just kind of freaking out.
Yeah. And I mean, it is largely due to the fact that we are in very close proximity to all the other locations where it's been hit pretty hard.
Yeah. There was talk around school this last week because there was some news that, well, it's very interesting to explain. What was it? The relative of an employee might have had the case, so the shop in our town closed, something like that.
I thought it was the relative of the employee might have come in contact with somebody who had it.
It may be like that. It's like fourth degree, like way out there. So the shop in our town closed, and then they panicked for a little while, and apparently they opened up later that week after all the employees of the shop had gotten tested negative. So then they just opened the shop again.
Basically, I view it as the equivalent of the old line from Spaceballs.
Oh yeah, which one?
I am your mother's brother's cousin's uncle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Former roommate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very loose connection.
Yeah.
But, Japan, they're doing the panic buy. At the supermarket today, they were out of toilet paper and out of tissues, and rice was low. There was still some rice, but it was pretty low.
I went to the grocery store this afternoon, and all the paper stuff was basically gone. Toilet paper, paper towels, masks, all that was gone.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Masks have been gone for a long time. I forgot about that.
Yeah. That being said, they still had plenty of instant ramen left, so I don't know what everybody's complaining about.
You know, they were running low on instant ramen at my supermarket.
You should go to mine then. We had plenty.
Actually, one of the realizations I had while we were at the supermarket today was that because our school is closed for so long, that we're going to have to be serving lunch for my whole family. So I reminded my wife, she's like, oh, yeah, we got to serve lunches. So, yeah, we bought a few more items for that. Yeah, things that are different.
I definitely have picked up a few more dried goods that will last a while, just in case things happen, but honestly, my concern is not the disease. My concern is everybody getting freaked out about the disease and shutting down.
Yes, that's exactly my concern too. I'm not at all afraid of the actual disease. It's not anywhere in our area. We don't know anyone who has it. I'm more concerned about the panic buyers that are taking up all the stuff that I would need just on a regular buy.
Yeah.
Like I bought one thing of tissue papers at a store because we need tissues, not because I need to panic buy it.
Well, if you still need tissues, and I assume you're talking about nose tissues, right?
Yes.
I recently bought like one of those packs of 5 a month ago, and let's be completely fair, I live alone, so I still have plenty of them left. So if you run low, I got the hookup.
And actually, I'm really okay because after March 11,
yeah,
this happened all over Japan too, this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do have, because tissues and toilet paper and paper towels like last forever, I actually have about 3 sets up in the attic. Because it's like, well, if this is going to happen during an earthquake or after an earthquake, and these don't ever expire, well, I'm just going to buy a stack and stick them in the attic.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, I've got a bunch already.
Now, I will say that this whole worry, it's very likely that the whole panic and shutting down schools is largely due to the fact of trying to make sure that the Olympics isn't canceled.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Because the Olympic Council did say to Japan that if it's not under control by May, they may have to cancel the Olympics. And Japan's put a lot of money into this thing.
Canceled completely, huh?
Yeah.
Not even delay it. Wouldn't it be nice to have the Olympics in like October when it's cool?
What are you talking about? That just wouldn't make sense. How dare you?
Why are they having the Olympics in the heat of July and August?
In Tokyo.
That unfortunately is what doesn't make sense, yes.
For those of you who haven't experienced a July in Tokyo, bless your heart. It is just very convenient that just happened to be the timing. So I would say it seems to me that, if nothing else, it's Japan showing that they are trying, they are doing stuff, they are being proactive. Because outside of that sort of not-so-veiled threat, I can't imagine Abe actually doing this.
Back to the disruptions a second. I mean, this is pretty disruptive to the workforce. If all these kids are now forced to stay home from school, all the parents have to take care of them. So what does that mean for the workforce? So it's causing disruptions, that's for sure. Actually, I wanted to get into the distance learning.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Yeah, there have been a few schools that have talked about it before the announcement this past week. So there were a few schools that were on it. Some of our schools in the area also have had history of March 11 in recent, in their minds recently. So they have already some sort of plan. We have a plan, not as much written down per se, I think, right?
Yeah.
But we've had a plan. We've had a plan for a while, and we've been telling teachers that they had to have stuff ready. I think we were able to pretty smoothly make the transition. There were some bumps, but pretty smoothly we were able to make the transition into distance learning.
Yeah.
Which will start tomorrow, I guess, really. So we don't really know how it's going to transition, but...
Tomorrow?
I'm sorry. It's going to start Monday, yes.
Yeah. Don't you skip a day.
Feels like tomorrow.
Yeah. That's basically how this weekend has felt for me as well, that it's just going to be chaos. I think the only real bumps were there were a lot of questions that I think if we had had a written handbook beforehand would have probably solved a few of the issues.
But in writing, in working on the team that wrote the handbook this time, now that we have a better handbook than we had before, I think we'll be able to modify it for each situation. Because one of the things that we were noticing is some of the helps that we were using to build this handbook were written after 3/11, where people were expected to flee the country. So when you were planning your, I'm going to throw an educational term in here, synchronous learning. When you're planning your like meetups, right, so that everybody meets at the same time to learn, you had to plan around people being back in America. So they didn't have to wake up in the middle of the night to go to your class. Like that was some of the language in there. Now for this kind of disaster, people can't really leave the country. I bet you there would have been ways to leave, but and I'm not sure America, I don't know. America was kind of annoying when 3/11 happened. It would have been hard for me to move my family safely out of Japan, but especially all of my family.
Yeah.
That's another discussion. Or this disaster is not really going to have people in different time zones. So there was a lot of language about that we didn't bring into our handbook. But at the same time, maybe we make a handbook. This is a nice handbook, and we can then alter it to fit another situation in the near future, which is why, I mean, again, we put this in our staff handbook, which is a nicely editable place, so that if it comes up to another situation, we'll just edit it to that situation.
Yeah, and I think as long as we keep it basically the same, then teachers will know what they will be expected to do in the future. I can tell you that at least on my end, I had my plans pretty well thought out basically last week. Mostly because I anticipated somebody freaking out and eventually it shutting down.
Yeah. And I think the leadership at our school did kind of expect eventually things to shut down, or at least planning for it to happen. We just didn't expect it to be announced last week already.
Yeah, it was very soon, at least from my perspective. But then again, it is right before the spring break for a lot of Japanese schools, and so perhaps that's what they were thinking, is they'll just flow it into spring break.
I think you're right.
But I will say that it does lead to some interesting situations where you realize that not every student will have access to certain things, and certain classes almost have to go completely on hold. Specifically, I'm thinking about the ones that require special software.
Yeah. But actually, in many ways, now I haven't seen it shake out yet, but my 3 girls are in elementary. And in some ways, I was pretty impressed with the amount of stuff that my 3 girls brought home. The amount of papers and stuff that the teachers prepared in that last day so that the kids didn't have to come in to pick anything up, or so that they didn't have to send PDF home for parents to print, or a bunch of things like that. I was not really expecting that, and yeah, they sent home a lot of stuff. So that's kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, I can't say that I did that, because I sent home all my students with their Google Classroom and said, watch this. Because everything you have due is due through this.
Yeah, and I think a lot of high schools like that. My wife was like that. She does have packets in her class, and she happened to have already printed up the next packet, so she was just able to pass that out on the last day. But most high school classes, I think, are going to be able to just pick up online pretty easily.
Yeah, thankfully there are a lot of things in place already that will help that. The difficulty comes when it's classes that are built on discussions or built on experiences in a classroom. I'm thinking of things like band, like choir.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do with blending your voice with your own voice.
Yeah. That and like PE, they're going to be the ones that have to think outside the box more than the math teachers or the English teachers, which will still have to think outside the box, just not quite as much.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I teach a social studies class, and we had a debate coming up next week, and we actually shifted into doing the debate where they will actually write their side of the argument in a paper, and then I will be giving those papers to their opponents, and their opponents will write a paper in response to them. So I think that's a cool assignment, even outside of needing it for this case, because I like the fact that they would get a chance to actually think through all their arguments and then analyze their opponent's arguments. Because, I mean, I think of old college professors used to do this all the time, where they would submit like a article to a journal, and then you would see another article in a different journal come back like the next month where they're basically saying, this guy's an idiot, here's what's really true.
Mm-hmm.
So I always find that interesting, but then again, that's how my brain works. And I know there are half of my students are loving this idea of writing a debate because they hate getting up in front of a crowd. And the other half are really dreading this because they wanted to just stand up and talk.
Yeah, you're right. So in many ways, it's good that it got forced.
Mm-hmm. It gives some of the students a different way of working than I normally do because normally in that class, that is a very discussion heavy class. That is a very debate and presentation and project heavy class. We don't tend to do a lot of writing, but hey, I think it'll be good for them.
Cool.
Anything else we want to add on this besides the fact that it's a pain in the tuchus?
Especially on the day of the announcement, I was just frustrated that everybody was running around with their heads cut off. And I'm like, let's take things slow and figure it out.
Yeah, and I think everybody was worrying a lot more than necessary. But at the end of the day, I also would say to those people who are not in Japan and yet listening to us that the news of how dangerous Japan is highly overrated.
Yeah, it is. Because I feel no problems walking around out in the neighborhood without a mask on. No concern at all. If I go to the doctor's office, I'll wear a mask now, which I don't always do when I go to the doctor's. But I'll wear a mask if I'm going to the doctor's right now.
Yeah, I have no problem not wearing a mask, and I regularly walk around, take the trains. I'm not worried.
So, Ryan.
Yeah?
What have you been playing recently?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Most recently, I have been playing actually a bunch of games. First of all, I have been playing XCOM, specifically XCOM 2, which is a game where basically you are the Earth Defense Squad defending Earth against a evil alien invasion. These aliens are basically trying to take over, and in XCOM 2, they've actually taken over. And you are now a resistance army, basically fighting in a guerrilla warfare style against the aliens that have now taken over the world. It is a turn-based game, so like turn-based strategy game, where you move your soldiers around the battlefield trying to attack and be very strategic, because if you are not strategic, you will very easily be overwhelmed and immediately killed. Because the game is designed that you are the underdog. So you have to really think about everything that you do. It's a very fun game, but it does tend to be hard, especially because I am a completionist and I like to do everything in a game, and that leads to difficulty when it comes to a game like this. And the other game I have been playing is a lot easier and a lot more fun. It's called 2 Point Hospital.
Okay.
Have you ever played like the theme hospital games?
No, I have not.
Basically, this game puts you in charge of a hospital. And you are basically running and managing this hospital.
Huh.
Now, that being said, the diseases in this game are also hilarious. For example, one of the first diseases you come across is lightheadedness, where all of the people who are infected with lightheadedness have a light bulb for a head.
Oh, okay. What's the cure? I'm afraid to ask. Unscrew it and put a new one on?
Actually, yes, it is. You have a machine that will basically use what looks like a claw machine arm and like unscrew the head of the person and then put a regular head back on the person. So it's stuff like that. It's just a fun, silly game, but it also takes a lot of planning on how you're going to lay out your hospital and run your hospital. Otherwise, you will very quickly run out of money and maybe accidentally kill everyone.
Oh, when you run out of money, you accidentally kill everyone?
Well, no, I'm just... Because if you don't have money, you don't have doctors. And if you don't have doctors, people don't get cured.
This is on the Nintendo Switch too, huh?
It is on many systems, actually. It's on the Switch, it's on the PlayStation, it's on the PC, it's on a whole bunch of systems.
Oh, it might not be on the Switch store in Japan.
Yeah.
On the 2 Point Hospital website, once you pick Switch, it doesn't list Japan as a country.
Well, to be completely fair, it did come out like a week ago.
Oh, the whole game?
Well, no, the Switch and the PlayStation version came out a week ago. The PC version came out a long time ago.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a fun game where basically you're just running a hospital.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
But yeah, it's very close to like their other simulation games. There's Theme Hospital was the one that this one is very close to. But they also have things like there was Theme Park, where you are running a theme park.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I always had with the theme park one was it was very easy for me to start constructing a roller coaster and create basically a ramp and then just stop making it and then allow people onto that roller coaster.
Really? So you don't have to finish the coaster before people get on it?
Nope. And I would do that because I was a horrible, horrible human being and thought it was funny to basically let all these people get on this roller coaster and launch them into the air. It's why I will never be running a Disney park.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's good that you're not going to do that. I think there might be other things that stop you from doing that, too.
Details.
I used to play Roller Coaster Tycoon, I think, way back when.
Yeah, and you could do something very similar in that.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, actually, it might have been Roller Coaster Tycoon that you could do that. Because I think the theme park one might actually have like set roller coasters. Oh man, it's been way too long since I played these games. I cannot remember which one was which.
Yeah, I don't remember either. If you could, I don't think I ever did what you're saying. I don't think I ever have created a roller coaster and sent people on it. I don't think I ever did that move.
Well, that's because you actually are a good person. So those are the two main games that I've been playing in the past little bit of time, other than all the games that I have already mentioned previously as I slowly finish up like 7 different games all at the same time.
Oh, actually, I haven't been playing games, but I've been helping my kids play some games.
Oh.
I mentioned this to you a while back, right? I think I got Sim Tower, which is a very old game, working on my Mac Classic emulator, right? So my Mac Classic emulator emulates computers from the 80s. And I got Sim Tower working on that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were playing that. I mean, one of the interesting things about this was my kids were playing, and they just weren't building past the 15-floor elevator limit. Like, they just, oh, my elevator ran out. I can stop here. I'm like, no, you guys got to keep building up to 100 floors. You can get up to 100 floors here. Like, no, I stop. You know, there's like, no, you don't have to. I don't have to do that. So then I found my old files, my Sim Tower games that I made way back when, and I showed them, and I was like, yeah, here's a 100-floor tower. They're like, wow. Because actually, at first I was like, oh, I'm going to start a tower and build it, and I'm like, no, I don't want to spend the time to do this. Where's my old files? I want to show them. So I got that working, and then one of our coworkers just happened to send us a thing on Myst, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was a great classic Mac game. And I was thinking to myself, wait a minute, before they made Myst, they made some other ones that I played when I was little. And one was Spelunks. So I found Spelunks, and I downloaded Spelunks, and my daughter has been playing that too. Now, what was funny to me is I thought that game was a lot bigger than it really is. It's really a small game. There's really only like 5 rooms to explore. I thought there was like 10, 15 rooms. Like, I thought there was a lot of rooms, but no, it's like 5. Oh well. They haven't done everything yet, but they have gone into each of the rooms.
See, for me, those games are a large part of my past.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've mentioned this before, but I still remember going to my grandparents' house and playing Myst and playing King's Quest with my grandma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to get Myst working for my older daughter, but I couldn't get it working. It was running into an error, and I haven't figured out what the error is yet. So I will have to give it another go another time, but I can't get it to run yet, which is a bit disappointing.
Now that we have talked for a bit, I'm feeling a bit parched.
Are you thirsty, Ryan?
I am.
Well, today I have an interesting one. I found this at my grocery store again. I found this a little while ago, so I passed that on to Ryan. It is a Fanta. So we had Fanta a while back, right? I should take
yes. Didn't we have another Fanta?
I think we had like a peach Fanta, I think, right? Wasn't it? I guess we've talked about it because we talked about Fanta when we did the CC Lemon.
Yeah, that's right. We talked about how it was similar to a Fanta drink, but better.
Right. I think that's where it comes from. So yes, Fanta has some interesting flavors in Japan. They have grape and orange almost all over the place. You can get them grape a little more rare, but orange is almost everywhere, I think, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's what I've seen anyway. So today I have it is an orange Fanta. At least I think it is, right? Because Iyokan is an orange flavor.
Yeah, but it's also Iyokan. Yeah.
Which is an orange. It's a Japanese orange.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the bottom it says yogurt flavored. So I'm kind of curious, is it orange or yogurt or both? I don't quite understand the labeling on this. Because there's definitely pictures of oranges and then there's pictures of yogurt. So my guess is both, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, because originally when you had told me that you had gotten a Iyokan Fanta, I thought you said Yokon.
Oh, what's that?
It's like a red bean paste wagashi, which is like, yeah.
That would be an interesting flavor.
That would be a very interesting flavor, and I would question all of your choices if you had brought that in.
No. So I think this is going to be a weird flavor. It does say on the side, I guess before we open it here, it says no fruit juice.
Oh, really? I thought you were going to mention the fact that it's talking about how much DHA is in here.
What? I don't even know.
DHA is like the vitamin or mineral that's like,
Oh.
they talk about that's in fish eyes to help make you smarter or something like that. It's ridiculous.
Oh, yes. Yes, this is going to be healthy for me, this drink, yes. Not as healthy as mango, yogurt, tapioca, the stuff we had last time, whatever that was.
Yeah, but, no fruit juice, Yokon yogurt flavored something.
Oh, and this one is, of course, 490 milliliters. Why give you 500 in a 500 milliliter bottle when you can give you 490?
Because, you really save that money with the extra 10 milliliters.
Mm-hmm. I'm very skeptical of this drink.
Oh, I know I'm going to feel a lot of things about this one.
Smells like a yogurt drink, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Not what I was expecting.
No. The orange flavor is very strong, actually.
Yeah, it's a nice tart orange flavor. But then it does have like a yogurt flavoring to kind of balance the whole thing out.
Mm-hmm. And definitely as an aftertaste. The yogurt comes in the aftertaste.
Mm-hmm.
We did forget to mention perhaps that this is kind of a milky color.
You know what I'm kind of getting the feel of?
Mm-hmm.
Almost like a Calpis.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But more soda than a Calpis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, and it doesn't quite get to the greatness of Calpis. And definitely more orange than Calpis, too.
Oh, yeah. It tastes like diluted Calpis a little bit with more soda water and then added Yokon flavor.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I would say not bad.
Not bad, no.
I will finish this one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's not going to get to be... It's not a favorite.
No, I wouldn't go out of my way to buy this. But, in a pinch, I would drink it.
I would say it's better than CC Lemon Rich Honey, right?
Yeah. But then again, Rich Honey was just too much honey.
Mm-hmm.
And especially because it was too much honey flavor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it wasn't even real honey.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's interesting that we're reacting to the ones that taste too much like flavoring. And I'm sure they're probably not even going for that when they do it. But sometimes it just tastes too much like flavoring. And this one doesn't taste too much like flavoring.
No. That being said, it's all flavoring. But it doesn't taste as bad of it.
Yeah, yes. Maybe because it tastes like orange soda, which orange soda is always flavoring, right?
Yeah. Whereas if you think about the ones that we were really opposed to, it's the ones that you could potentially get the actual juice or the flavor, and they choose to go down the flavoring route rather.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, on a scale of strawberry Coke to 10, where do you put this?
I'd say 5.
Okay.
It works. I will drink it.
But it's middling.
Yeah. With other choices out there, I would pick other things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Strawberry Coke bringing the average way down. I guess that's what I'm saying. I mean, CC Lemon Rich Honey is like a 3, right? Maybe a 2 even.
I would give that a 2.
Yeah. So, yeah. Using the whole scale, right?
Using the whole scale, I would maybe... I thought about it again, and maybe I'd give that a 3 for the mere fact that Ume Pepsi has to take at least a 1 or a 2
One or
on that.
two. Yeah.
And I can't put the rich honey CC lemon that close to Ume Pepsi.
We decided to continue our tradition of picking things. Well, this time we're kind of picking stories or experiences as opposed to objects or characters, I guess was the other one.
Yeah.
But this time we were going to pick one of our social or language faux pas. And this kind of goes along with the media that we're going to talk about later a little bit. So I have something and Ryan has something. And this time, so one of the experiences that I'm going to share is one of my language faux pas that I've had when coming to Japan. And I believe Ryan's heard this, but I will tell it again because it is kind of a fun story. Because this is the simple kind of mistake that you can make in Japan. It's an easy mistake to make this kind of mistake. But Japanese has counters on the end of their numbers, right? So if you're counting, you say 1, 2, 3. And in English, we would say, like, let's say you're counting pencils. You would say 1, 2, 3. I have 3 pencils, right? Mm-hmm. In Japan, they don't say they have 3 pencils. They say 3, and then they have a suffix on the after 3, which means long, thin things. Which actually, I forget the one for pencils right now.
Hon.
Hon, right. Hon, that would be it. Yep. So I have, sambon, right? Which actually, when you say 3, it changes to bon. Anyway.
Well, it's pon. It's like ippon, nihon, sanbon.
Yeah, sanbon, right?
Yeah. That's the weird thing is for thin objects, it's ippon, mm-hmm. then nihon, mm-hmm. then sanbon.
But then yon, hon, and then everything after that is hon, hon, hon.
Yeah.
Which is like first, second, third, right? I mean, we do the same thing in English, so it's not any different than that. But anyway, so they have suffixes, and these suffixes tell you what they're counting, right? You count cars, you would say ichidai, nidai, sandai, hyundai. Nope, just kidding, sorry.
Oh, I award you no points for that one.
Oh, come on, that was pretty good.
No, it was good. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, so there's one for paper and flat things. There's a counter for all these things. So one day, I was ordering pizza. This was like fairly soon after I had arrived to work here in Japan. And I had, studied Japanese before coming to Japan. So I was scarily the person who knew the most Japanese. And talking on the phone in Japanese is a different experience because usually, when you're talking to somebody when you don't know much of the language, there's a lot of visual clues, right, going on. You can wave your arms, point at things, a lot of stuff. But when you talk on the phone in Japanese, all that goes away, right? So I happen to be the person who spoke the most Japanese, so it was my job to order the pizza. And that particular day, I was living in the apartment building next to school, which the school half owns. And I was visiting my friend 2 floors down. So when I called, they ask you your phone number so they can find you in their computer system. So I gave them my phone number, and they use that phone number to pull up your address, and then they verify your address with them. So I verified my address, but at the end I said, I am not in apartment 402 today. I am in apartment 204. So in Japanese, I would say, 204 desu, right? So that's how I said it. And then the guy on the other end repeated, Hi, 245 desu. Hi. So I said, no, because in my head, go in my head was translating to 5. So I was thinking he was saying 2045. And I'm like, no. I'm in apartment 204. So I said again, no, 204 desu. He said, Hi, 245 desu. And I'm like, no, that's not where I am. I am not in 2045. I am in 204. So I did this like 4 times with him. And I was like, fine, you know what? He's not going to make a mistake. He will find us. If push comes to shove, we'll just go downstairs in the lobby and pick up the pizza. Like, this is, whatever. We're going to get our pizza. This is not going to be a problem. I'm going to move on to the next thing and start ordering the pizza now. It took me like 4 or 5 months later. I don't know how it came up, but I finally found out that go on the end is the counter for apartments. So he was repeating exactly what I was saying. He was just using the counter on the end. So I was like, oh my goodness, now I feel stupid. He was saying 204 every time. He wasn't saying 2045. He was saying 204 every single time. He was just using the proper counter for apartments that I had no clue what it was. I'm sure he thinks I was completely stupid, which I was. But yeah, it was quite interesting. We did eventually get our pizza. That wasn't a problem at all. And I think he even rang the right bell. So yeah, I didn't have to worry. He did know exactly what I was talking about. You haven't made that mistake, have you, Ryan? When did you learn that go is the counter of apartments?
Probably when I moved into an apartment, and when I went to the shiakusho and actually had to set up my apartment and writing all that stuff down, and they repeat everything back to me, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the danger was I moved into an apartment owned by an English speakers, and they didn't have to register anything. They did it all for me. Yeah, there's the danger there. Shouldn't have done that.
Well, it is actually one of the reasons why I have not moved into any apartments owned by the English-speaking crowd, because I do want to make sure that I do not become enclaved.
Yes. So what's your social faux pas?
Okay, so my big social faux pas, I think, I have a lot of interesting stories, but this is kind of an interesting story. So, when I first moved to Japan to teach English at Japanese schools, this was back in 2011. So I had 3 schools that I worked at. I worked at 2 middle schools and an elementary school. The elementary school, I only worked at basically 1 day a month, maybe sometimes 2 days a month at most. So I didn't go there very often. This is a story of the first time that I went to that school. I had been taken there once by car, where they introduced me and said, "This is the school you're working at, this is the principal," and I met everybody who I would be working with. Well, on the morning that I needed to go there the first time for work, I woke up and started heading to the school, and the thing that everyone has ever told me about Japan before I had ever gone is punctuality is a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be on time. I'm not traditionally what one would consider a punctual person. I have problems where 5 minutes late is good enough. You know, you just kind of, you say I'm sorry and you go with it. Well, when I first moved to Japan, I was trying very hard to not do that. I was trying to be on time for everything. So, I start heading towards this school, and I know about where it is, and I'm heading, as the crow flies, directly towards my school. And I might have gotten a little lost.
Oh, no.
So, I'm a little lost. I start walking around and realize that I see the school.
Oh, okay.
I see the school, and it is directly across this wide open field from me. So I go, well, I've been walking on a road. If I cut across this field, I can make it to the school. I looked at my watch. I had 10 minutes to make it to school and not be late. So I cut across this open field. And I come to the edge of the field where there was a lovely little stream there.
Mm-hmm.
I look at the stream, look at how wide it is, and go, oh, that's not too deep. It's not too wide. I could probably wade through, roll up my pant legs, and make it through and be fine. Because I realized that I looked over and saw 2 bridges that basically went over this open field, but both were about 15-minute walk away, so it would have been about half an hour total to get to the school then.
Oh, really?
So, I approach this stream, roll up my pant legs, put my backpack basically on top of my head, and have taken my shoes and my socks off, and everything's in my bag, and I start wading through. Only to realize that the water is a lot higher than I anticipated.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So by the time it reached my knees, and I was only about a fourth of the way through the stream, I go, this isn't going to work. I think for myself for one moment, maybe I can hop the rest of the way across. And then I say to myself, no, Ryan, don't be an idiot. That'll be horrible. And as soon as I say that to myself, the rock slips out from underneath my foot, and I plunge beneath the water. Fully submerged. Backpack, shoes, socks, all of me, fully under the water. I had been wearing 2 socks that had like the name of the day of the week on it, and Monday goes flowing down the stream. I never saw Monday again after that day. So, I'm now fully soaked. I climb out on the other side of the river where the school was, fully drenched, because I was like, "Oh, might as well just finish crossing the river at this point."
Mm-hmm.
And climb up the hill, get to the front door of the school, and approach the door and say, "Hi, I'm your English teacher," as I am dripping wet. The principal of the school comes running out and goes, "What happened? Are you okay? What happened?" Now, this was before I could say almost anything in Japanese, and I knew a few words, but what I got out was, "Water, I fell."
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I was able to get out. So he lends me his tracksuit, his jersey for the day, which he is a very tall man, but not a very large man, and I tend to be built a little bit wider than most Japanese guys, and so I was doing the fat man in a little coat for most of the day, where if I lifted my arms over my shoulders, I was showing my midriff to all of the elementary school students. And that was my first day at my elementary school.
So how quickly did they figure out you fell in the stream?
They never found that out. But after that moment, every single day that I went to that school, from then on until I left that school, the principal came up to me before I went home every day and said, "On your way back, be careful." Because he just assumed I fell into rivers and lakes all the time. Now, the one last thing I will say about this, I found the name of that stream a while back, which I thought this was a stream when I first was near it. The name of that little stream was Tamagawa.
Tamagawa? I was wondering if that was going to be the case. The Tamagawa, which is sometimes a stream at the very tips, but not always.
Nope, not always. So, yes, that was my interesting story, but I will have you know, I was on time for work.
That's right. It's good. Yeah, actually, I have crossed the Tamagawa when it was a lower stream, too. Well, there was a wooden bridge I crossed.
Yeah, I wish I had found a wooden bridge. It was a very interesting thing, and I bring up that story simply because for the rest of the time that I worked at that school, I had a reputation.
It was hard to shake it, huh?
Yeah. That being said, it was one of probably the most memorable moments of those elementary school kids' lives when they meet their new English teacher in a tracksuit that is clearly not designed for him. So, the media for today, we read a story, and then we watched the movie based on that story.
Yeah, so this is something you hadn't seen yet, right? So this is something that I am bringing to you. Is that correct?
That is correct. I had not seen the movie, nor had I read the story beforehand.
Mm. The story is called The Story of Your Life, and the movie is called Arrival.
The book is The Story of Your Life. It's a short story, novella.
Well, I'm not even sure it's a novella. I think it might just be a short story, right? It's part of a collected short story.
Yeah, it's one of anthology.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the movie that is loosely based on it is Arrival.
So I was making a comment to my wife. I said, I need to read a book. She's like, you need to read a book? I was like, that's okay. Kindle tells me it's 2 hours to read it. And she says, yeah, the movie's 2 hours too. So it's like, oh, yeah, that's actually correct. It's about the same.
As always, if you have not read the book or seen the movie, now would be a good spot to stop the podcast, go ahead and watch it, or read it.
Mm-hmm. Because you should do both for this one, I think, too.
Yeah, because we are going to be talking about the differences between the two.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's worth it, but we'll get to that later, I guess.
But, as always, if you do continue listening, there will be spoilers, so be warned for that.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who have seen it before, or have read the book before, but it's been a long time, I'll give you a quick summary just to get you caught back up. Arrival is a story told by Louise Banks to her unborn daughter on the night before she is conceived. It's a story that she tells as she remembers both her past and as she remembers her future, and the future of her life, including everything that will happen to her and her daughter. She begins this story by talking about when the heptapods arrived, and when she is recruited by the army to help make contact with this alien life form. As a linguist, she's approached to see if she could attempt to translate these alien speech patterns. And she tells the army that to understand and ultimately learn the language and be able to converse, she would need to meet and converse with them. The army eventually brings her along to a looking glass site where they communicate with the heptapods, and she meets with these creatures who are radially symmetrical, which she comments must mean that anywhere must be the front of them at any time. She then attempts to communicate with these beings through speech at first, and then through writing, through basic words, and then working up in difficulty of construction. Eventually, they realize that the statements made through writing have a very free word order construction, where moving forward and backward have no meaning, no difference. It's a non-linear construction. And this story is largely about them breaking apart the linguistic elements of their speech and trying to understand these very foreign creatures to them. The next breakthrough comes actually with a discussion of the refraction of light and how light always seems to take the quickest route to arrive at its destination. This seems very obvious to the heptapods, and this seems very odd to the humans because they didn't seem to understand the humans' understanding of algebra and some of the more linear math. But they really understood this, which was more of a understanding all events possible at the same time. Louise realizes that basically humans, while they experience the world with causality and linear thought in mind, the heptapods seem to be able to experience all these events at once. Basically, it comes down to the fact that they have a very teleological understanding of how the world works. Anywho, as Louise becomes better at the heptapods' written language, she begins thinking in their language, which, as we've said, is lacking in linear thought that is inherent in human language. And as she does this, she begins to also have glimpses of her future, a future with her daughter and the daughter's father, who she seems to be divorced from. These meetings continue, and they try to see why they came to Earth, and all they ever seem to get out of them is to see. Eventually, without warning, the heptapods do leave, but Louise, who now knows their language and sees as they do in this non-linear format, chooses to tell the story on this night because she is telling the story to her unborn child, knowing that she's going to go down a path that she has already seen that will end in divorce and the early death of her daughter.
So, Ryan, what did you think?
I liked the story very much, and I'm going to say this right off the bat. I liked the story more than I liked the movie.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Actually, after watching the movie again today, I think I'd like to make a case that the movie is better than the story.
Oh, all right. Well, I will be intrigued to see this, but I will probably be arguing against it unless you can convince me.
Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of great things about the story, though. I think, to me, we'll discuss this more, I guess, but to me, I do think that the book was really good, and then the movie made the book even better.
Okay.
I did watch the movie first, a long time ago, and then read the book. But I do like that the book does the same kind of thing as the movie, where you have no hint of who the father is, all the way to the end. I kind of like that. And interestingly, in the summary here, you've said that Louise is telling the story to her unborn child before she's born. I guess I kind of always pictured that she's telling the story to her child as she's 10. But I think you're probably right. I think she is telling the story to her unborn child before she's born. Like, here's the story of you, and I'm telling it to you before you're born.
Well, the reason why I say that is because at the very beginning of the story...
Yeah. No, you're right, because at the very beginning of the story, it's just before they go in together to conceive.
Yeah, because she says, like, it's in the first paragraph, your father's about to ask me, do you want to make a baby?
Right, one of your most important questions. You're right. I think this story is told all at that point in her time, which is an interesting thing.
And I think that deals a lot with the fact that, for me, and I think this is why I like the story better, I feel like it does the non-linearity so much better in the story.
Yes, I think that's true. And I think that's just the ease of which you can do that in a book compared to how you can do that in a movie.
And yeah, and for me, that's the most important and most intriguing part of this story for me, is the fact
Mm-hmm.
that her mind has gotten to the point where she has absorbed the language so much that it is now, she is seeing the world in this non-linear format. She is seeing it, seeing all the events at once, seeing the end of it all, seeing the telos of all of her life. And for me, that's why I really like the story, is because it does that playing around with time so much better, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think that the book does a really good job with the relationships
Mm-hmm.
and not as good job with the science fiction, or just leaves a lot to the imagination and just doesn't answer a lot of questions there. While I think the movie, to me, the movie does a great job with the relationships also, but then also introduces a lot more intrigue in the science fiction. And I think that's why I like the movie better.
I will say that for me, it felt like in the story they built up the heptapods and built up their society so much more, and you didn't know really what human society looked like at the time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably a large part of that difference right there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because in the movie, you have a deeper understanding of human society at that time.
Yeah.
I will also say that there were a couple of changes that were made, though, to make it more of a movie that I felt took away from the story. But
Okay, let's hear those. Okay.
and those were things like the soldiers who decide to try and blow up the ship.
I think that adds to the tension that I like, though.
Yeah, it adds to tension, but I think that reason why we're disagreeing on which one it is better comes down to what is important to us in this story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think let's start with that. I mean, what is the thing that really drives you about this story?
I think there's two things, and I think they're equal to me. The amazing ability that Louise gets through learning the language. I just love trying to twist my mind into imagining that ability. I like that. I do like the relationships, although I think the other thing that I really like is, especially watching the movie again this time, I was focused more on what the movie is saying, that the heptapods are trying to get the humans to work together, that everybody has to share, that even though they know that the one heptapod knows he's going to die, he is going to die so that they all have to work together to find the answer of the 12 sites. So I didn't pick up the togetherness aspect of the movie the first few times I watched it. But this last time it's like, oh no, the heptapods are trying to get us to work together. So I enjoyed that theme too. And that made me like the movie more this time around.
And for me, the main thing, the thing that I love about this story is less of all of the situation happening and all on this non-linear type of thinking, this understanding of a culture that is so alien due to the fact of how it views the world. The fact that the first human beings, when they are interacting with everything in this linear format, when we have we have a front and we have a back, we move in a very linear fashion, and that is how our language was constructed. That's how our thinking is made. And these heptapods are actually designed like they have eyes in a ring. Their entire body is radially symmetrical rather than having the symmetry of just front and back that we have.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely did like the book's picture of the aliens better than the movie's picture of the aliens.
Yeah, and more to that, it comes down to me where we talk about, like, because of that very thought, they then have their whole thinking is in, rather than a linear format, it is they see all events at the same time. They see everything at the same time, and they interact with everything at the same time. So, like, what math gets developed first? How does your language get developed? All this is built off of how do you see the world and how is the world perceived by you?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that one of the things that the movie lacks, and I think I was realizing this time reading it through, the book is trying to say Louise is living her life in the maximum way, right? I mean, that's because the theme of the maximum minimum is brought up a lot
Yeah.
in the book, and the book is trying to say that she's still trying to live her life in the maximum way, even though she knows exactly what's going to happen through everything.
And even though she knows, it's also going to lead to some suffering.
But actually, and here's one of the reasons why I like the movie too, is because the movie answers some of the relationship questions that the book leaves out. Like, I like the fact that the movie explains that the reason that the husband left the marriage is because he couldn't deal with the fact that Louise decided to have the baby even though she knows he was going to die. That was the reason why the husband left, because it's Ian in the movie and Gary in the book.
Yeah.
But I liked that answer. That made more sense to me. Like, so I think in some ways the movie is answering some questions that the book left out, and I think still add to the story. They're not subtracting from it, those answers.
Yeah, I will say that, like, for example, that answer I felt was a very satisfying answer. I was really happy with that. There were some other choices that they made that I wasn't so on board with, but I thought that that one was good.
Yeah, like, I mean, like the girl dies differently in the movie
Yeah.
than in the book. Like, the girl dies of a terminal disease in the movie, whereas it's an accident in the book. That one didn't bother me too much.
No, I think for me it was the other side of things is, like, for example, in the book, the heptapods came to see. That's it. They didn't have any other reason that they said aside from to see. But in the movie, they made it, oh, we're going to come back in 3,000 years and we're going to need your help.
Yeah, but at the same time, no. But I think though the reason they came was to give the language, right? To use the weapon. I mean, which is again, they were badly translating what they were trying to say.
Yeah.
But they were trying to say basically that no, we're giving you the ability,
The tool.
Yeah, the tool to look forward in time.
I mean, you say that, but again, that's something that isn't in the story. That's not mentioned as an intention at all.
Yeah. I did kind of like the fact that, oh, I see. So here's the question I had for you. If the heptapods can see 3,000 years in the future, how old are they? Right? Because it's not like Louise can see past her own existence. So can these heptapods live 3,000 years into the future? Which is kind of interesting. And then Louise, again, also talks about in a few places, both in the movie and in the book, like, this coming to Earth was meant to happen. She talks like, oh, she can't really change her future. Or if she could, she wouldn't, because she realizes that she did live it to the maximum.
No, I think for me, how my headcanon worked on that was, I mean, even if they aren't 3,000 years old, they could easily play a game of interdimensional temporal telephone.
Yeah.
Where the one who's 3,000 years ahead has told their father,
their ancestor,
yeah, and then they just pass it back, because nothing ever gets misconstrued when you just pass back a story like that.
Yeah, but then would they have been able to change their past, or were they always meant to have come to Earth? So
that actually comes to the thing that I was going to ask. This is partially why I like the story too, is because it deals with one major question: free will. Is foreknowledge the breaking down of free will? And they really address that pretty heavily in the book. So my bachelor's degree was in philosophy and theology and biblical studies and all that stuff, and so I read a lot of theology and a lot of philosophy books. And so I love stuff like asking questions about free will, asking questions about foreknowledge. That sort of stuff is stuff that I love. And so I think that's why the book resonated so much to me. But I want to ask you the question. Does foreknowledge mean no free will?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. But yeah, I do think that Louise, I mean, it does kind of surprise me that she doesn't ever look up to see what the lottery is that day and then pass that back to the day before. Like, she passes back her ability to translate all of a sudden.
Yeah. So now I don't want to take away your love of the movie. And I don't think I will.
No, you won't. That's okay.
For me, the reason why I love the book more is simply because it deals with some of the deeper questions a little bit better. It deals with the time a little bit better. It deals with the seeing the whole of reality at the same time rather than in a linear fashion better. And I think those were the things that stood out to me more and resonated with me more than necessarily
Trying to get humanity to work together, that kind of stuff.
yeah, trying to get humanity to work together. I've seen that in 1,000 other sci-fi stories.
Yeah. I think I was trying to reword to say the attempt to try to get to humanity.
Yeah.
Because, again, that theme, I saw it this time, but I don't think I saw it in the first few times I watched this movie, that, the heptapods are trying to get humanity to work together. It didn't really strike home with me the first 2 times I saw it. So I'm not sure it's a theme, that's for sure.
See, that theme stood out to me, that's what they were trying to go with. And because where I kind of landed on that was, you're putting that theme in when there's this whole other theme that it almost felt like they were trying to overwrite the other themes.
The thing that I like the best is the fact that Louise can learn the other language and her perspective of time shifts. And I think that is covered in both very well.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I think that is why they both can resonate with me pretty quickly. Like, because I think, to me, again, I think one of the reasons why I missed the let's get everyone to work together theme was because I was so focused on Louise's, oh my goodness, she can start thinking in their language and then can see her whole life. It's better handled in the book, I think, when she talks about dreaming in Russian. But I can remember the first time I had a dream in Japanese, and that was really weird. And of course, I dreamt that I could fully understand Japanese.
Of course.
Because why would you dream anything different?
That is the dream.
That is the dream. Because I was nowhere near it when I dreamt it. That's for sure. I was making up words left and right that were completely rational and correct. But yes, they were made up. I felt that part. So that part hits a bit home to me.
Yeah, I will say that regardless of how much I have argued that I liked the book better, I did think the movie was good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a good telling of the story. I think I would have liked it better had I not read the story first.
Oh, that's interesting. Because again, one of the things I really like about the movie too is some of the other sciencey things, right? Like the lift, the change in gravity, the fact that they can control that. Like, that's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, and I read the story first, and so all those extra things, I was like, that wasn't in the story.
Right. So you're being bothered by them, right?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Should have had you watch the movie first.
Possibly, but you know what? I think I appreciate some of the philosophical questions a little bit more because I focused on the story first.
Mm-hmm.
I think that both are good, but like I said, I did like especially the philosophical aspects and the dealing with the nonlinear thinking. I thought that was very well done.
So let me ask the question, would you have a child that you know would die? And okay, you don't have to answer because I don't think I have an answer as somebody who has children.
Yeah.
But that gets back to the have loved and lost is better to not have loved at all.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would like to say that I would do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the reason why. I would like to believe that I would hold each moment precious, even knowing that eventually they will end.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to think that way, but I also know that thinking about myself and thinking about my personality, it would be very easy for me to cut myself off to try to avoid the pain.
But I think that's one of the interesting things about this movie, the book too, is that it's kind of saying Louise is living her life almost forgetting that fact, right? That she knows that her daughter's going to die. She's still caught up in the moment every time. Every time the moments are coming, she's still caught up in them.
Yeah.
Right?
Although I will say that if you had that ability where you were constantly able to experience every moment at the same time, I would also think that would be hard because in addition to everything else, that means that in every moment, you're living your daughter's death.
Mm.
And in every moment, you're living her birth. And in every moment, you're living every time that she scraped her knee or told you that she loves you or told you that she hates you. You're living all those moments in every moment.
Yeah.
I think that'd be hard. I think that'd be very hard. especially knowing that she was going to die young and knowing that your daughter was going to die before you did. You'd have to live that moment every time you look at her, and I think that'd be hard. This all coming from a guy who has no children.
Yeah, it would be hard, I would think. I haven't had any daughters die, but I can't imagine it.
I hope you never have to endure that.
So yeah, good stuff, huh, Ryan?
Yeah, I thought it was a very excellent story.
Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite all-time movies.
Mm.
Actually, after watching it again today, I have a playlist of instrumental music that I use when coding, and I added the violin piece that plays during the movie. I added that piece to this playlist because
it is a very good piece.
Yeah, I like that one a lot because I was like, nah, I gotta have this on my playlist.
I thought the movie was excellent. I do think I was more critical on it than I necessarily would have been had I not read the story. Like, again, I also read the story in a little bit prior to having watched the movie. Like, it was like a very close turnover. I think it was either the same day or like a day later. So it was very fresh.
To me too. It's the first time I've done them in such a quick succession too.
Yeah, it was good. But, as always, if you do continue watching or listening... So, The Arrival is a story told by Lewis... Let me start that again.
Told by Lewis Carroll. Wait a minute. I guess my question is, during the edit, will there be things we need to move around? But we didn't go back and forth too much. Like, we talked about future, and then we talked about... I think we talked about it pretty linearly.
We were just mimicking the non-linearity of the story.
I could say that. But actually, I think we did pretty good.
I think we did pretty good. I think there were a few times where we jumped from like a character to a setting to a theme.
But at the same time, it's because we were building on it every time, Ryan.
Exactly. We're just focusing on the main purpose.
Yeah, actually, in many ways, I think that's what it is. I think at this time we were actually focusing on the main things we liked the whole time, as opposed to jumping around from character to setting to this, which is fine.
You know what it was? We were all very focused on the telos, where the end goal was, just like the heptapods. And that's the real meaning of Christmas.